Hi, Jiggy. How are you?
I am as awesome as you. Welcome to Alive, my search for the best ways to live. I'm your host. My name is Jigga Jr., and my guest today is a writer. He's a host, an events host, and he's also the projects head of Blackstraw Productions, Paulo Varela.
What's up, Jiggy?
Paulo,
What's up to everybody watching?
I especially wanted to talk to you because just a few months ago, I saw a concert, a mini concert in the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and the band that was performing was the Flaming Lips. Now, the band members were inside a bubble, and the crowd were also inside a bubble, a literal bubble. And one of
A
the
literal
things that
bubble.
that that crossed my mind is, wow, is this going to be the future of concerts? And of course, I was thinking about you and your production, and I was thinking, is this even technically possible to hold a concert? Granting, you have all the resources that you have, especially the financial backing of a sponsor, perhaps. Can you actually hold a concert with the band members in a bubble and the crowd in a bubble? What are your thoughts on that, Pao? Go ahead.
Maybe to give everyone a little bit of context, I don't know if you can see it, but this is what Jiggy's talking about, and those are people in literal plastic zorbs.
Hmm.
So it's a literal plastic bubble from the people on stage to the people in the crowd. They were given a a zorb as soon as they came in to add to the safety protocols. Now, that's a that's a pretty interesting way of putting a concert together or any event experience together, especially during this time of the pandemic, because I think I think that particular attempt at putting a concert together was more of an exhibition in a sense. They wanted to put the concert together, but at the same time, they wanted to make it fun. And given the opportunity of putting people inside literal balloons, they took the chance and grabbed it. I think that's how they took on the opportunity. Because if you think about it, if we put that here in our context here in Cebu, that might be a pretty tricky, and although it might be absolutely fun. I mean, you can crowd surf, you can literally bounce over people. That would be absolutely fun. But if you've seen, like, in the past couple of months during this pandemic, during the lockdowns and during the different spheres of openings, some producers have actually put out concerts, whether they're drive-in concerts. Some have even put out socially distant concerts where you can see the certain setups were made so that people had their own VIP stages everywhere, just to make sure that everyone is socially distant. We can't deny that. I think live events in particular, concerts, conferences, events that where people gather together, these are things that not only as an industry have been damaged somehow, especially for this year, but we now face a certain level of challenge in terms of putting it back together while the virus is still out there. If while COVID is out there, while the vaccine hasn't been released, hasn't been given out, it's either we wait for that and have empty stomachs while at it, or we put things together, whether they're bands or artists or concerts or DJs or producers. Everyone in the events industry has really been affected because of it's a natural imposition of stoppage in a way. Like, we know.
So the concert of Flaming Lips last June, uh, conceptually, we get the idea, right? We get the gist. The idea is for us to have as much fun as we can have while being socially distant from each other, enough for us not to catch a virus from each other. So that was the big idea behind the concert.
Yes.
Now you mentioned that there are several events now that are socially distancing, a drive-in concerts. I've seen rallies as well, of course. In particular, the political rallies in the United
Political
States,
rally.
wherein Trump doesn't really practice social distancing, and
But we're talking about the ones that are responsible enough to consider the safety protocols,
yeah,
because
and
yeah,
go ahead, continue.
because
And
I
and
mean,
and and
like those political rallies don't really take into consideration the. I mean, they have been called super spreaders, but the risk is there, Jigs. I mean,
I
every
know.
time we gather together, every time even just two people see each other, there's a risk of getting the virus from somebody else. So the live events industry somehow has transformed, especially during this time. I mean, it's
Mhm.
only been what 6 7 months in terms of the full blown closure of everything, and we're seeing governments and we're seeing industries now all over the world consider live events as whether it's a hybrid event, an online event. I mean, everyone transitioned online. We're talking online right now. Last time I appeared on your show, we were talking face to face,
Yeah, yeah.
and this the whole transition to online on an online platform somehow, although it makes things easier, it also adds a new layer of and certain levels of elements that don't mesh with the traditional live event. I mean, you need different gear, you need different skills to put an online event together. Having like it's more broadcasting rather than live event implementation, right? So it it's a completely different game, and I'm seeing a lot of key players in the industry, even here in the Philippines, who changed their game somehow. They've shifted completely. Like I know of a bunch of agencies here in the country that were who used to be specifically for live events. Now they have a studio. They run a studio now with the target of um, being a venue for online events, which is something else. And that's happened just in the last few months because of the pandemic, because of the need. I mean, there is still the need for us to put up events. Brands still need to put up activities and promotions and marketing. And agencies like ours, we still need to do events for work, basically.
Experientially, Pao, a live concert. I mean, you've been to many live concerts, right? I mean, like the smell of the sweat,
Yeah.
the sound of the
The
crowd,
stress.
the sound of the screaming fans screaming to the same song that thousands of you can completely and totally relate to. The surge of adrenaline when you hear your favorite song, when you see people jumping up and down in a mosh pit, right? Those are things that are difficult to capture if you're just watching it from a screen, or even if you're in an actual event but you're socially distant, right? That's
Yes.
almost impossible to capture that feeling, that energy that you have in a live concert. Now, Pau, that is what a concert it is. It is about a gathering of energies, right? The energy of your favorite artist, your favorite band, and the energy of the fans converge into a beautiful firework, a beautiful explosion, a beautiful event. Absent that, how are we trying to replicate. I know you mentioned already several experiments, like the drive-in concerts, like the online concerts that you did with I think Xpree, right? And other online concerts that I've seen. I'm sure they were successful. I'm sure there were a lot of views, but I'm not sure how effective it is in capturing the hearts and minds of people.
I think that's the biggest challenge, Jigs, because I mean, being like you, for one, you're also part of the industry when it comes to have to live events. I, as what you said, we put up concerts and we put up music festivals and the sort. When it comes to that in particular, concerts and music festivals, I gotta admit, nothing beats the live experience. That's the biggest challenge. In the same way that we're all cooped up in our homes and locked down and waiting for this scenario is temporary. That's what we're saying. It's all temporary. What people are doing now is what is a means while this pandemic is going on, and because we can't deny the fact that the live events industry is probably one of the last industries that will fully return, will fully get back on its toes. So, um, on its feet rather. I mean, it's a it having people gather together. If that's your main, I mean, because if you think about a concert, you need to sell tickets,
Mhm.
right? You need to get as much people to go to your show for you to not only have a grand time, but for the show to be a success. But if you take away the fact that people can go to the show, what do you do about it? People have done online campaigns, online events, but yes, it just doesn't have the same feeling as being and watching and actually experiencing it live. That's why this is one of the things that we can only look forward to and hope that it gets back to how it used to be.
Um,
I say that with a heavy heart, Jigs.
Yeah, I
I
know, I
mean,
know, with a
yeah,
hopeful and heavy heart.
yes,
One of the things we have been enjoying, I have been enjoying because I'm an NBA fan, right? Was watching the NBA in a bubble, right? That was a huge experiment where they sequestered all the players, all the officials in a bubble, in a small contained place. I think in Disney Orlando, right? Orlando, Florida,
yes.
and they
Orlando,
contained them in a
Florida.
bubble, and nobody could get out, nobody could get in unless it was something important. There were other players who didn't want to get in and didn't want to join the bubble, but most of the big stars were able to join the bubble, and it was a successful NBA in a bubble event. When they finally crowned the Los Angeles Lakers as the champions for this year, I'm sure you're as
It's
happy as I am.
successful in a way that they managed to, despite the pandemic, they
Yeah.
managed to get a playoffs and get a
Mhm.
champion. I
Yeah.
mean, but everyone
The
says that
reports just came in. They were. I think they lost a few $1 million there. It wasn't as profitable as
they
the
probably
usual.
they probably
The
lost a
usual.
whole lot more than that, Jigs. Because if you think about all of the each arena or each stadium, like for every single game, how much people show up to watch these games, especially during the finals,
Mhm.
and that doesn't compare to watching it online.
I think
Even
their
if
business. I think their business model now, Pao, has shifted. Even pre-pandemic, I think they get most of their income from television shows. From television rights. I'm sorry. From all over the world. I think that's where they really get a bulk of their income. I think the ticket sales, although they're substantial, they're not as
that's for
big.
the league though.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the team owners and the stadiums. That alone is
yeah, yeah,
that's a lot of money that
yeah. I
they've
know, right?
lost.
The people,
The
the
league on
food
its own, the league is
concessionaires. Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
I mean, the league is fine, but everybody else, Like even the employees, you heard about the some of the players from different teams actually got a pay cut because they donated some of their money, their salaries to
Yeah. Yeah.
the arena staff.
Yeah.
That's a heartfelt thing, but it's also part of the franchise. Whether you're from LA and you're from Staples Center, or and you're the people who work there, they didn't get any of the pie from the finals. Like they probably didn't even sell as much merch as they would have
Yeah, for
compared to
sure. For
people
sure.
showing up and buying all of the merch. Those are, yeah, in a sense, that was a successful experiment because us here, we're just watching it online. But even then, the players, it takes away more than 50% of the experience, I'd have to say.
Yeah, more than
Because
that, I imagine. The
right,
crowd cheering, right?
like home court advantage, and you lost, you lost your rooting crowd, the noise and the excitement and the energy, you lose that. But what can we do? I mean, I keep noticing a lot of industries, or whether they're that have a certain level of live aspect, whether it's a sporting franchise, or a concert, or an event, a big event, that they want to put something together because they want to bring people together. But we just can't deny, our people are gonna go there's that question too. Even if at this point, like right now, we've been MGCQ for a while now. If we put something together and encourage people to show up and promote the hell out of it, people aren't going to show up because the virus is still out there. So there's a huge risk unless we give them the proper safety protocols and assure them that everything is safe. I mean, there's so much more while the pandemic is going on. There's so much more to take into consideration compared to when putting something up or putting something together compared to before. A lot more, especially if you want to put something up during this pandemic era. Like there's
Because I think,
not
a lot of psychology, I think, is involved in this process. I think one of the things that we have to consider is that granting that we will no longer be in any form of lockdown. I think the trauma that people have experienced in these months of seeing people that they love die, people that they love get sick. Every time they open the television, it's death and disease everywhere. So it's gonna take a lot of time for people to get back to that set point pre-pandemic. And even if a vaccine is already around, people will still have that sort of wound in their hearts that might still be a scar, and they can still feel that somehow at the back of their heads. So a lot of that has to do with psychology. That's why you mentioned that you want them to feel safe, right? That you have all these
yes.
safety precautions, but that doesn't sound like a lot of fun, right, Paul? Like if you go to a concert, all you need to do is just your beer, although you're not allowed to drink beer in some of the concerts, and yourself, right, and your energy, and that's it, man. But now
That's how it
if you
used
have,
to be. The simple
yeah,
life.
yeah, and we all know what happened to Europe, to the United States, if they relax, right? They have a second wave or a third wave, and the cases spike, and the hospitals get overwhelmed again, and we're back to square one.
I
So
mean, you see Europe closing down again, and
yeah, I
it's
know, right?
right now, and it's
Yeah,
pretty, it's scary because us here. But I do wonder because you note that they opened their bars, they opened their clubs
yeah,
over in Europe, and
yeah,
now they close them back again
yeah.
because of the rising figures. But what happened to Wuhan? I mean, like
Well, they're pretty they're a pretty disciplined nation because they're a socialist republic, right?
yeah,
They're
but I've seen clubs over there.
in
People
in
are
Wuhan,
people are packed over there,
in Wuhan.
and in Wuhan, and I guess that's I guess it's a matter of how controlled the situation is with regards to the virus per area, right? Same way that in the states they have, notwithstanding the gatherings because of the rallies and all that, and all the street demonstrations, right? But here in the Philippines, we've started putting things back together in a way that is a lot more disciplined than how it used to be. I think some of the layers, don't get me wrong, even before the pandemic, when it comes to live events, it's it's very well executed and you need to prepare for it really well. That's what all the permits are for, and that's what all the you have your health and safety. There were already health and safety protocols even before the pandemic, but now because of the pandemic, and while the pandemic is still happening, and if you want to put something together, of course, your health and safety protocols shoot up to the sky. And I mean, a lot of the key players that I've been talking to in the industry here and in Manila, their preparation for health and safety protocols are 80% on top of the budget. So it costs roughly around 60 to 80% of your budget
Wow.
because
So
of the fact that
because it's impossible for us to do an outdoor, the usual kind of event, a concert, any mass gatherings. I'm sure a lot of the entertainment events industry in particular have been greatly affected, right,
Mhm.
Pao? I'm sure. Can you describe to us, Pao, there's only one word that I can think of, I've used this before. Describe to us the devastation of COVID-19 that it has brought to the events slash entertainment industry just here in Cebu lang.
in Cebu.
In Cebu lang,
Oh,
yeah.
because I got figures for you, Jigs. Because there's, if you talk about the country,
Yeah.
I got figures for you. There's
Yeah.
there's roughly around 400,000 um, Filipinos that have businesses with regards to events.
Mhm.
400,000 Filipinos that have
Individuals, yeah, okay.
businesses. These are registered entities, right? There's half a million events that go through in a year. There's roughly around there's roughly around 4 million. I think around even more than that if you think about it when it comes to live events, right? So in that scape alone, majority of people here, if we go here to Cebu, if we talk about say around March, February, March, April, May, nothing is happening.
Mhm.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. People were starting to find ways to survive. I mean, that's how your resilience comes out and shows itself. So we some of our crew members in our Blackstraw team, they started putting up food businesses, and some of them are maintaining that even up to now. So a lot of the people, like some of my partners as well, they've started um, looking into other means of temporary sustenance when it comes to work, because there's no way for us to put any big thing together, and it's pretty saddening because prior to the pandemic, Jigs, we were preparing for a very busy 2020. I
I can
mean,
imagine.
right? We were preparing for, like, in right around March to May alone, we probably lost around 20 projects. That's not much for some, but that's quite a lot for us.
So
And
that's
these were
this is the figures that you're talking about. 20 projects, March to May, is just your production outfit, right?
that's
But
just for our production outfit.
um,
Yes.
and how about the other guys, like from the other productions, your peers in the industry? What have you seen? What have you heard? I know that some of your friends in Blackstraw, your partners in Blackstraw, have pivoted into the food industry and
Mhm.
all that stuff. How about you? Where are you pivoting to? In the absence of any income stream from Blackstraw, I know you saved a lot of money, but still, somehow that money
What
will
money,
be
Jigs?
depleted, right?
I
So,
mean,
what is everybody doing these days in the
right?
events industry?
Um, Personally, I can speak for myself. I even started working on. Um, I think that's why you mentioned. I started writing again. I
Hmm.
started writing for YouTube channels.
Hmm.
I found, especially during the time of the pandemic, I started copywriting, and it was nice because I mean we didn't have any work. I didn't have any hosting jobs. I didn't have, and I also worked on the jobs that I could do from home, like voiceovers. I still could do that, but really writing was the thing that kept me sane during the pandemic, really, and trying to stay alive in the house. But that alone, that's for me, because it's a good thing, because I have background from all of the stuff that I've been doing in the past and stuff that I do. But a lot of people that I work with from the live events industry, like there's a lot from weddings, wedding industry, and special events, photographers, videographers. I mean, these are essential key players when it comes to live events like this. And for a long time, you saw none happening. There was no, like, you saw videographers and photographers in the wedding industry starting to sell their equipment, right? I mean, you can really feel the hardship in just a few months. That's how that it's vital, because you have to take note that majority of people who work in events, in live events, a lot of them are freelancers, right? A lot of them are freelancers, so they work on a job to job basis, and if there's no job, there's no pay. So it really added to the challenge. I have some of the figures here, Jigs. It's been said that there's an estimated 280,000 jobs in the country. This is a national scale figure. 280,000 jobs were lost during the pandemic, during the lockdown, when it comes to live events. That could equal up to 131 billion pesos in potential revenue for 2020. That's a
Well,
lot
that's
of
a lot
money,
of that's a
Jigs.
lot of money.
131 billion pesos for live events. So needless to say, when it comes to I mean, the live events industry isn't really something that people consider to be a huge industry, because when you're talking about live events, it just happens. It just happens, right? But there's so many things that happen behind the scenes that we work with. That's the job. And
Mhm.
I guess now that since the pandemic started, being one of the last groups of people who will be able to get back on their feet, the government actually got to give a little focus on the live events industry, especially freelancers. Now there's a congressman and a lot of different organizations that have sprouted out during the time of the pandemic that have focused on helping the live events industry. So I'm
So,
talking about,
how's
yes.
how's that working out? Is the government issuing any checks to the industry? Have you received any? Because I certainly haven't received any in my hand.
I haven't yet, Jiggy.
So,
But my
is that
it's weird though,
forthcoming?
because
Is that coming up? What?
my partners in the company, they already have, but I haven't yet. So government, stop government. No, seriously. Uh they through the through the National Live Events Council, right? The NLEC. There's
Mhm.
sorry, that's the National Live Events Coalition. That's an events group that was formed right around March or April, I believe,
Okay.
and started to really work it out around May to push for the government to recognize the beneficiaries of the PESA bill, because there's a bill that actually recognizes, when it comes to employment, uh, live events as an industry. It because it says here there's 27,000, a little bit over 27,000 micro, small, and medium enterprises that are part of the live events industry. So that alone, companies like ours, we didn't avail of it though, but companies like ours, we were given the opportunity to make loans um, for sueldo, for salaries, right? But we managed to, the company managed to resolve that issue internally, and we didn't need to take on a loan. So um, a lot of the events agencies actually do that now. And I think the latest update that we had, there was a nationwide effort to recognize and register, individually register freelancers, whether you're a host, you're a photographer, or you're a production assistant, as long as you are part of the live events industry and you have no other full-time job, whether you're a part-timer or a freelancer, or you're part of an agency or a company, you can register under the National Live Events Coalition, and uh, eventually the government will provide you benefits and even ayuda. That's the idea. But it's been, I mean, we're already October into it, so I mean, I only try to dip my foot into the water and check how the progress is going on. But it's good to note that the government, especially the House of Representatives, Congress, they've started to really push for recognizing the live events industry and freelancers. I think that's
Well,
because prior to this, freelancers weren't even considered um, much. I mean, tiglang. Diba? Now, freelancers are recognized when it comes to working as part of the live events
when you
industry.
say freelancers, I think the what you mean are contract workers, right? Meaning to say
Ideally,
you're getting paid only for the job that you do. Let's say, for example, our
ideally,
industry, we
yes,
host, right? And then
but
we do this job.
freelancers can be more. They can be the agreements between freelancers. It's not the same as contractualized work. It's
Hmm.
different. It's more. I mean, I can do a bunch of freelance work without any contracts at all.
Hmm.
I can do um, different types of freelance work. It doesn't have to be one particular skill or one particular task. So, so
But
that's where
well, in reality, Pao, actually, if you think about it, for example, if you're asked to host one event, if you're asked to write one article, that's the contract, right?
mm,
You're a freelance host, you're a freelance writer, you're a freelance what do you call it, assistant production, and you get paid per job. Actually, maybe there was no contract because the agreement, the contract was the handshake. But in effect, your contract is for that particular job, right? So a
yes, yes,
freelancer is the one, that kind of person that takes on contractual jobs that they get
ideally
paid per per gig, per event, the gigs industry, right?
in a
and
gig
and
industry.
so our relationship with there's no relationship with uh, like an employee relationship,
Mm.
although it can be argued that you do have that relationship, but only for that particular job, right?
Especially if you're not tied with any particular company, which
Yeah,
why you're called a freelancer. Because
yeah.
there's some freelancers that because of the understanding in the live events industry and in the scope of work, someone can be part of a company and still freelance,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I mean,
That's correct.
and
Yeah.
still freelance doing other types of work.
Hmm.
So that's where the trick lies, because it's not most of the time a lot of these jobs are considered
Hmm.
unregistered,
Hmm.
right? And now there's a new approach by the government for freelancers, to a point that even the jobs, like, technically, if you want to be above the board, even if you're a freelancer, you can have a receipt,
Hmm.
you can have a recibo,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
That's what makes it legit.
Hmm.
So that's the type of work that we espouse for people to, in terms of services, that we espouse clients to take, because
Hmm.
that provides more benefits, not only for the freelancer, but at the same time security for the client,
Hmm.
right? But I mean, it is important to have contracts. It is important to have, because you can't swear
A
on
handshake anymore,
handshake
right?
agreements, right? I mean, you can't really run after someone who runs away with their money because they didn't do the job,
So,
right?
do you feel that the gig industry, the freelancing industry, Pao, uh, requires some sort of legislation? I mean, of course, we need assistance. The industry needs aid, right? But looking forward, does it need any form of new laws to protect these freelancers, or do we have enough laws to protect us?
I think that's what's been going on in Congress now, especially with the collaboration between National Live Events Coalition and FDCP, the Film Development Council of the Philippines. They are the ones who took in the concept of the freelance, and the live events industry aspect, and production freelancers, to particularly identify what does it mean to be a freelancer under the live events industry, whether you're a show director, a technical director, a lighting director, or a host, or a videographer, a sound engineer. They put that under a column, and if you're registered under NLEC, National Live Events Coalition, you categorize yourself according to that, and then eventually the NLEC will provide guidelines in the future. I think that's what's going on right now. That will be in line with the PESA bill in Congress, because
Okay.
that's one of the ways that you can protect the freelancer and the companies that put up events as well.
Well,
Because right now, yes.
I'm sure these are things that's still being that's still in the hearts and minds of a lot of people, a lot of some congressmen. I'm sure it's already in the drawing board, and I hope it becomes some sort of law to be able to protect the freelancers, especially for those in the events industry. Wow, out of all the things that you've seen so far in the past 9 months, from
Mm.
that bubble concert with the flaming lips to the socially distancing concerts, to the drive-by concerts or drive-in concerts to online concerts. What do you think is the most successful events model so far, and what do you think will future events look like, with the understanding that this coronavirus will be with us for another 2 years? How will it look like, Pao? What do you think is the
I
best model that you've seen so far?
it's hard to claim a particular manner of execution, because I've noticed that even the big name brands that put up online events, you can't say that it was effective. Even with the biggest name talents, they probably had how many viewers? of course, that's the thing with the online live thing now. You can't really base it on the number of people who watch live, right? Because the online live event experience now, it's on the internet in perpetuity. It's forever
Mhm.
going to be on the internet. So it's basically a recorded TV show that you watch on the internet whenever you want to watch it, right? I still would like to maintain the discipline that, especially right now, there's more venues that allow certain events that happen, like even like the wedding industry is slowly gaining back its momentum. They've started to they've eliminated the fear and have started to provide safe spaces for their guests themselves. um, I still believe in the actual live experience. You can make it a hybrid. Like you can make it a hybrid. It's a live event. You have live guests, you have live performers, but you also broadcast on the internet, right? I think that to me is the most appealing manner of live events nowadays during the coronavirus, because you still need the live, the crowd, the live experience. Like we noticed, like example, the recent Miss Universe, right? That was all taped. They were there was just them. There was no crowd, right? Same way that the Miss Universe Philippines, rather, and same way that the NBA bubble happened. It takes away the excitement, right? Even Tomorrowland, they all went digital. But to me, I still challenge the people watching and the brands and events agencies. If you can put something together that is safe, that has the proper safety protocols that are in line with the DOH and the NLEC FDCP guidelines that were put out a couple of months back. If you provide that, even with a risk, if you provide a safe space for people to go who are negative from the virus, if you have a safe space that everyone there, all the performers, all the guests are negative, then you can have a grand time. That would be absolutely fun because people need something like that. I think that us in the industry, we need to challenge each other in pulling people back to the live events, especially now. It's not about waiting for the vaccine to come. That's the reason why the guidelines are 50% of capacity. 50% of capacity. You need to have the health and safety protocols. You need to have an the the safety protocols duly recognized. You need to have your insurance. You need to have, I mean, if you follow all of the guidelines that are included, like an isolation area must be designated in the workplace. I mean, temperature checks. It's not just about the temperature checks. You see, Jigs, the new guidelines that the DOH put out, the DOH and the FDCP and the IATF put out with regards to public, not public, but shooting, um, uh, video, audio, visual industry, and community protocols for audio visual production shoots and live events, right? So they put out implementing guidelines saying everyone who participates in the event needs rapid testing. Everyone, right?
Mhm.
Um, there needs to be on-set protocol. A maximum number of people on set must be limited to 50. But these are for production shoots, for videos, right? If it's a venue layout, there's certain specific things that you need to keep in mind. Of course, you have your DOH accredited staff and crew. you have your health and medical precautions, like you need to have uh, an officer, the health and safety protocol officer with a certificate one, which even I thought about
Wow,
um,
that's pretty complicated.
registering. Yeah, that even I contemplated on studying to register for the to be a safety protocol officer
Officer.
one, right? Because that's one of the dire needs of the industry that will be uh, that's needed now, right?
Well, I'm sure you're aware of this. That even before the pandemic, there was already a surge of activities that were going online. Right. This was even before the pandemic, and I remember there was a Travis Scott concert inside Fortnite that was attended by, I think, over 1 million people. And you don't have, nobody organizes a concert with a million people watching, right? So it was a digitally immersive event, and people felt like they were inside a concert at Fortnite. I'm sure you've heard of that, right? That the Travis
Yeah,
Scott
because they
concert. Did
they
you hear
didn't
about
do
that?
that. They didn't do that before. Before that, not many people actually put up online parties,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But
So
because of this,
what are your thoughts on that? Even in the NBA, they have certain brands. I forgot the name. I think it was Oculus. It's like a digital brand of looking at we're watching an NBA game from a 360-degree angle, or from a
yeah,
camera up close, from this HD beautiful camera that you'll feel like you're actually inside and watching the game or watching the concert. So we have all these immersive technologies that
the toys.
that are almost like, and sometimes even better than watching a concert. I remember you too had an IMAX concert, right? And I think it was shown once here in SM, the IMAX concert, right? So it was like a concert. It was like a concert in the widescreen, and it was so immersive that it feels like you're actually inside the uh, the U2 stadium, wherever that was during that time. So what I'm saying, Pao, is I think technology is catching up on uh, experiencing a live event. Do you think that there will ever come a time soon that a digital experience of a live event is just as immersive, is just as mind blowing as a live event as we know it?
Probably when people start developing a full body suit like Ready Player One, maybe. But I mean, yes, the toys that technology has provided allow different means of experiences, and it's quite interesting that it's been going on in the last decade. I mean, from silent discos where everyone has their own
Headphones,
uh,
yeah.
headphones and they go to the venue, but there's no music out because they're all wearing the headphones.
Hmm.
These are all innovations with regards to the event experience. Same way that the online party or the online concert in Fortnite, it allows a certain level of interaction within your community, right? But it still takes away the reality of actual living the experience. That's
Hmm.
how I've seen all these digital toys that come out, like all these live events and live experiences. It's not something you can smell. It's not something you can touch, right? But if technology gets to a point where, I mean, notwithstanding, there are people who prefer to stay in their houses and get comfy while they're watching their favorite band perform live on a big stage, right? They can have their speakers blasting and experience it the same way. But that's how they relate to themselves. But if like what you said from the start, if you're looking for the live event experience where there's energy and there's you're feeling the sweat, you're running around, you're jumping up and down, you feel the ground underneath you. That's why I just fall back and say you just can't beat the actual live experience. And I guess if we all get all Black Mirror on it, it might get that way. But it's a scary notion because, like, you and I, we same way, Jakes. Like, example, when you're talking when you're talking in the studio, when you're live on air on the radio, and you're not really seeing anyone, but people know you're there. It's the same way that people hear you on the radio, as compared to when you're talking on a stage in front of people, you immediately get the feedback. You get feedback from the crowd in
But
front of you.
really, Pao, I mean, you're aware of this. You can actually get instant feedback while you're on the radio. In fact, I think if you really think about it, since you're talking about radio, and we're both from that universe, um, radio is personal, right? You may be
Yes,
alone in front of a microphone, but when a listener hears you, the idea is for you to sound like you're talking to
to
that
them.
specific
Yes,
person, to
yes,
an individual, right? That's always
yes,
been sort of the training, right? That you talk to the microphone like you're talking to one person, and the
yes.
idea is for you to talk to as many individuals as possible, and make them feel that they're that you're talking to them, and that song is for them, and that message is for them. That's the job, right, that we have been trained to do. And I think that's not far off from what the internet is, right? I mean, what we are doing now is we are talking, and people who will be watching this interview will hopefully feel that we are talking to them as well, that we want them to listen to us because this information is something that you can use. So I think that sort of dynamic, that sort of training is crucial, right? To be able to communicate like you're talking to an individual. And I think that's why Fortnite, the concert of Travis Scott, was so successful, I think you can be represented by an avatar, right, in the concert. There's a stage,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then you're represented by an avatar, and you're with other avatars of other people, right?
Right.
So
You're still in the game. You're
yeah,
still in the game. You're
yeah,
participating in the. I mean, they set a specific time.
yeah,
They
yeah,
set a specific area, and you converge there.
yeah.
And so people just showed up. Of course, their avatars literally in the game showed up, and that's how they
Is that
that's
possible
how they
here
coexist.
in the Philippines? Can we do something like that here in the Philippines, in Cebu, like
Of course,
a concert
I think
in a game, or in another universe? Are we doing that here? Is there a local concert at Fortnite? Is that possible? How does it work?
I don't think I've encountered or heard any of the like here in the Philippines
Uh,
yet.
Not
But
yet.
I mean, there are a lot of platforms now for viewing, whether it's not just Facebook Live anymore. There's other platforms where people watch specific content, whether it's a live event or a live concert,
Hmm.
or even discussions such as this, or just someone talking. It's not even just about a prepared vlog material anymore.
Hmm.
It's I think we have yet to see what the internet and people who innovate toys in the internet can provide the entertainment industry. That's one thing that we can always look forward to with every time a new toy comes out. How does it apply to us?
And I think this pandemic has sort of speeded up the process, right,
Right.
of
So
inventing stuff up, so the experience of a live event becomes more immersive. How out of all the months that we have been hunkering down, that we have been, and socially distancing and all that stuff, you've been hunkered down in your home for such a long time. What have you learned? What have you realized about? Because I know you're a very outdoorsy kind of person. You like going out, and all that stuff. You like hitting the beach, and like um, uh, what have you learned about yourself and about what it is to be alive, based on the things that you've seen in the past 9 months?
That's a pretty interesting question, Jigs. I needed to scratch my head for that. No, I guess when it comes to realizing how how finite things are, when we all look at the possibility of danger when it comes to life, we protect ourselves. That's why we lock ourselves down, hide from the virus. But it's not just about the virus. You see, it's about whatever life throws you, whatever you're thrown, you have to react. And the way I reacted was to make the best out of each day. That's how I saw it. It doesn't matter how much you're out of your luck. You can't be in sorrow when you're already down, right? Especially when it's a hard time. I realized that um, facing the lockdown, facing the pandemic, I actually started to look forward to the routines. It's something that I wasn't used to. I realized that I wasn't used to routines, and it's something having this time to literally uh, do the things that I haven't found the time to do, allowed me to be as productive as I could be during this time. It really got me to work on a bunch of stuff that ended up being pending, or a lot of the stuff that I was already working on, I finished. I mean, it gave me a lot of time. And that's the only thing that you can't lose: time. That's what I realized. And having a lot of it now during this time, and not knowing whether you have it or how long you have it, allowed me to really make the most out of every day. So it gave me uh it gave me more focus, I have to say, this
So,
pandemic.
are you sort of also enjoying just staying at home as much as going out? Is that what you're saying? You've embraced that reality?
I guess you can say yes, I have. I mean, you always think about the underlying fact that the pandemic's still out there, and you can't deny that you want to travel, you want to do what you used to doing, but you can't. And rather than taking that risk, you can allow yourself to center yourself and do what you can with what you have. And that's what same way that me and the people in our group, we started talking really early into this pandemic. What are we going to do now, guys? I mean, we have no job. We have all of our projects are canceled. It looks like our next project's going to be in 2021 pa. I mean, what are we going to do now, right? So we started pushing each other into helping each other out, and trying to see what we could do for ourselves first, ideally, but with the support of our group that's like family now. So it's like a support system. That's how we feel, which is why it's such a big relief as well. Of course, we're still looking forward to work. We're still looking forward to working. I mean, imagine all of the preparation that people have been starting to. I mean, people have started to prepare for one of the biggest years of Cebu, which is 2021. 500 years for Sinulog, right? Sinulog for 2021 is probably supposed to be, allegedly, if it still pushes through, one of the biggest it'll ever be because of the 500 years. And it signifies so much, and the cities prepared for it. So it was ideally it was going to be huge, but then the pandemic happened, and so we all found ourselves in limbo. What are we going to do now? What happens to everything that we prepared for? um, it's nice to note though that a lot of the people that we work with, they find ways now of applying themselves so that they can maintain, because still companies still need to promote. Advertising is still out there, marketing still happens, and uh, the I think that the people who are quite active at this point in this time are brave. They are so brave because the risk is out there. I mean, we had an event together a month back. I think so. Was it a month back,
Yeah,
September?
yeah, yeah.
And we had to sit down and talk about the safety protocols. We
In our
all had to
masks.
wear our face mask and face shields, even if it was a fairly socially distant taping, because it was video, right? But even then, we had to take into consideration that um, uh, because we wouldn't want anything to happen to us while we were doing the job, right? Same way that these people who are doing it now, I think they're so brave because the risk is quite there still, I'd have
The
to say.
risk is higher. Degree of difficulty is higher. Pao, we have a lot of events organizers, people from the events industry who are hopefully watching this episode. What is your message to all of them?
I don't know, brothers and sisters, how are you guys doing? um, you got to stand firm and believe in the passion first of why we do this. One of the reasons why I found myself working in the events industry is because not only is it fun, but it also puts other people first. It puts other people in in front of your own experiences. It's because your experience allows them to experience the experience you want them to experience. And so um, don't let that go. Hold on to that, because that, whether the patience for that passion will see us through. Stand firm, guys. Stand firm. I think it's nice to see people like every now and then. Like the last couple, I think it was a week ago. I had a certain gig, and I saw people who I often would get to work with, but it's actually been what, less than what, 8 9 months since the last time I saw them, or even more than that, and we just can't comprehend how fast time has flown. And in that same way, time will move very fast as long as we stand firm, and we'll get back to our feet again.
I guess what Paulo Varela is saying is that whether the live events industry will be happening this year or next year, uh, only time will tell. But I think just like all things change, it never changes. It's always a fact of life. And this pandemic, this coronaverse that we're inhabiting, is not going to be here forever. And
Adapt.
one day soon, we're going to rock again in front of a crowd, in front of thousands of screaming fans, screaming your name, pal,
Oh, we
or
missed that.
screaming
We
the
missed,
band's name
not really the band's name, probably
and the
not
band's
my name.
name.
But yeah,
Oh,
how we miss that so much. That is true.
yeah, yeah, we miss talking to thousands of people, addressing them, and making them scream, not because of our presence, but because of the band behind us. Paul, thank you so much. It's always a blast to talk to you. I had so much fun talking to you, in person during our last episode together, but I'm still having fun, even if it's just using our mobile devices. And Pao,
I'm
before 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 we, what's that?
looking forward to seeing you with the juicier topics for this podcast too, Jiggy.
Yes, we will have juicier
You've been at
topics.
it, especially during this podcast is actually very important, especially during the start of the pandemic, because we got a lot of information out of this, Diggs.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, man. And before we go, Pao, I'd like to send my respects to one of my guests just a few weeks ago, a few months ago, who died recently, 2 days ago. Sports columnist and the sports director Rico Navarro. He was one of my guests, and he died just a couple of days ago. And we had an episode just few weeks ago, Pao, and he passed away. So my condolences to the family of Rico Navarro. And thank you so much for those great conversations, Rico. And thank you so much for that great conversation that we're having tonight, Pao. And you stay safe, bro.
Thank you. You too, bro. Keep safe and stay strong.
All right, you too, bro. Thank you so much, man. You take care.